If you've lived your life and never wanted to be a ninja, you're probably lying to yourself, and the Way of Shadows is the best way to feel like a ninja. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. And today, we're talking about the first of the monastic traditions for monks in 5th edition, the Way of Shadows. The Way of Shadows is essentially a ninja. That's the best way to describe it. So let me know what you think in the comments below about the Way of Shadows, and we'll dive into everything you get as a ninja. The Way of Shadows are the stealth monks. They're the most quiet, they work in the shadows, and they are often come from monasteries that are assassins or spies, or even more like thieves' guilds. They tend to be very secretive about their activities, as most kind of shady, underhanded operations would, and the head of these kind of monasteries are often rule with an iron fist kind of people. They don't tend to indulge a lot of disobedience. So keep that in mind when creating your Way of the Shadow monk, that they might come from a pretty tough background. So what do you get as Way of the Shadows? When you hit level 3, you pick Way of the Shadows. First up, you're going to get Shadow Arts. Shadow Arts lets you spend key points to cast spells. It's pretty straightforward. You're not exactly casting the spells though, since you're not using spell slots and stuff, but you do recreate the effects of those spells. For 2 key points, you can essentially cast the spells Darkness, Dark Vision, Pass Without Trace, or Silence. All spells that are designed to keep things quiet and your party quiet when moving through dangerous areas. In addition to that, you gain a cantrip. The cantrip is Minor Illusion. A cantrip doesn't really work the same way. You don't need to spend a key point. Obviously, it doesn't use spell slots, so you can just cast the cantrip whenever you need. At level 6, you get the ability called Shadow Step. And now this is a cool one for Way of the Shadow monks. As a bonus action, when you're in dim light or darkness, as a bonus action, you can teleport up to 60 feet to another area that is dim light or darkness. And in addition to that, your next attack on your turn when you do this gets advantage against your target. This is a really good ability for going from one side of the battlefield to the other and catching an opponent off guard or putting them in a compromising situation, as suddenly they have a knife at their back in the shadows where they didn't think you would be able to get. At level 11, you get Cloak of Shadows, which is you become one with the darkness and the shadows. Whenever you find yourself in dim light or darkness, as an action, you can become invisible. This invisibility lasts until you attack something, cast a spell, or enter bright light. So it's a really good way to stay quiet and dark and hidden. When you're in dim light areas. Probably a little overpowered when you're in caverns or dark dungeons, because you can just go invisible and stay invisible the whole time. At level 17, you get the ability Opportunist, which is a reactionary attack. When you see a chance, you take it. The way this works is whenever a creature that is within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack from another creature, you can then use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that target. Kind of a 1-2 punch. Your ally hits a creature, you get to hit it right away. Also, it could potentially be a death blow, you never know. That is the basics of Way of Shadow. It's a pretty short and to the point video, this one. There's not a lot of mechanics we can do deep dives in, and normally in these videos I would do a whole section on feats that would work well for this. But what I want to try to do with the monk is I'm gonna just save all the feats and all that stuff for the end, for another video later on, rather than talk about them with these individual subclasses. This subclass could go really well if you're in a party that doesn't have a rogue. This could be the rogue monk, essentially. It just sets you up as a nice stealth, quiet thing, but it brings all the firepower, the punching, the kicking, the hitting that a monk has, which I think the monk is set up to do a really pretty good damage dealing. This allows that to be a lot more quiet. It also allows your party to move stealthy. If you don't have another character that can cast Pass Without Trace, which is a really great stealth spell, if you don't have that, having a monk that can cast it would be pretty boss. So consider that when you're coming up with the Way of Shadow or looking at your party composition, where would this fit in? And I think it could go in a lot of situations. Anyways, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.